Thanks everyone for having me. So as Albert said, I'm responsible for resource efficiency at Telstra, or depending on who I'm talking to within the business, I might call it circular economy or lifecycle management or product stewardship or product sustainability or anything that gets the job done. I want to talk to you today about kind of why e-waste is an issue for Telstra and then what we're going to be doing about it. Importantly, not just to improve environmental performance, but also kind of deliver business value for Telstra at the same time. So hopefully everyone knows who Telstra is. I think that should be pretty clear. But we're a telco and a technology company. I wanted to show this slide for there's three parts on there I want to highlight. The first is that Telstra has a corporate strategy, which is the three kind of pillars across the middle there. So the important thing is that everything we do in the environment space needs to be linked back to those kind of corporate strategy principles. So it's improving customer experience, it's driving efficiency through the business, or it's generating new business growth and those kind of things. The second point I wanted to make is that we're doing, as part of that strategy over the next 3 years, about $1 billion worth of investment in the network. And then the third point I wanted to make is that we've got about 20 million customers or so that are using mobile devices, landlines and modems. Now those last 2 points are very important because investing in the network means that we're decommissioning a lot of equipment and replacing it, so we've got a huge amount of e-waste coming from our network. And we've also got a responsibility with our customers to make sure that they can responsibly recycle their e-waste. So on the right, we do an annual review of kind of our risk topics across the business. So we engage with the business, with all different teams, and also with our stakeholders, and map out where our big risks are. And e-waste is consistently a big one for us, and it has been for a number of years, which is obvious given the amount of e-waste that we kind of generate through the network. But e-waste is not just an issue for Telstra, it's obviously an issue for Australia and globally as e-waste generation increases dramatically over years. There's issues with transparency around supply chains and where e-waste ends up, secure destruction and privacy issues, but also that the raw materials going into electronics are running out, and so we need to make sure that we recover them and reuse them for new purposes. So in response to all of these issues, we developed an electronics reuse and recycling strategy, which we launched last year. So that's a 3-year strategy, which goes across a number of different themes and sets objectives and targets for each of them. So that's really trying to address some of the key barriers that we found with e-waste, which is things around cost being a barrier, convenience, awareness, and also privacy or security. So we've got 4 key pillars and then targets within each of them. So we're really trying to make it more easier for our customers or for the communities to recycle their electronics. We're trying to give them confidence that it's done securely and responsibly. We're trying to raise awareness and education about some of the issues around e-waste and why you should be recycling it. And then finally, the last point is about Telstra as a business being more transparent in our e-waste and showing that we're tracking against the targets that we've publicly committed to. So just quickly on developing the strategy, as a very first step, we looked at all of the electronic equipment and kind of devices and everything that we use across the business and tried to get an idea of the scale of where the opportunities are in the business to increase recycling rates and generate value. We then looked at some of the barriers and the risks involved in that as well. And after that, we went out to the Institute for Sustainable Futures, UTS, and got them to help us put together an expert panel to really develop the strategy itself and bring in lots of product stewardship experts and things like that. We then went through internal and external launches and then up to the implementation phase of actually trying to deliver against the targets. And that's what I want to talk about for the rest of the time. So the first one of our probably more successful in the short term things that have come out of that strategy is, in a convoluted way, we are now leasing mobile phones to customers. So that instead of selling them, you can now lease them. Now, we worked on that with the retail team, so the environment and retail team together to achieve that. And the environmental message is a key part of the offer. So it's all available on the website and kind of the marketing materials around it. are about the environmental message. The customer benefits of the leasing program are that the plans are cheaper because you're not paying off a phone. They can also replace the phone in a shorter time period, so I think it's probably a year or so rather than replacing it after 2 years. The environmental benefits, hopefully it's clear to everyone, but you're extending the lifetime of the phone. So we can get it back and it has another opportunity to be reused. But also, if the phone can't be reused, then it's coming back to us and we can make sure that it is responsibly recycled rather than going and sitting in someone's drawer and just losing its value. So Telstra's been a long-time supporter of Mobile Muster and one of the founding members, and Mobile Muster is here and has a booth if you want to go and visit them and chat about all the good work they do. So we've been involved with them for a while, but with the EWaste strategy that we have launched, we kind of tried to push the boundaries a little bit with that. So we set some targets ourselves on what we want to try and achieve in terms of getting mobile phones back through the program, collecting and recycling. So you can see the trend on the right where we've kind of slowly increased, and over the next 3 years we want to move from about 16 tonnes of mobile phones collected for recycling each year through our channels up to 20. Now that's a little bit counterintuitive given I've said in the previous slide that we're looking to lease phones and extend the life of them. So that's in the face of the fact that actually there will be less phones available for recycling over the next few years. But through the EWaste strategy as well, we're also working with Mobile Muster to try and encourage our customers to recycle their phones more, so working on the collection points and really promoting those, but also the campaigns that they do. So there was a great one recently, if anyone saw it, partnering with Oz Harvest, so Mobile for a Meal, where you would bring in your phone for recycling and they would donate a meal to someone in need. And that got a lot of traction and a real uplift in our numbers, mobile phone collection. So within Telstra itself and focusing on our employees, we've really been trying to empower them to adopt recycling practices as well, in particular around e-waste. And so we developed some guidelines on how our employees could sponsor an e-waste collection site within Telstra, so at one of our commercial buildings or at our exchanges or things. So they can kind of follow these guidelines and get approvals within their team, and then they can set up a mobile phone collection, cabling, broadband services collection, so e-waste from that stream, and also batteries. And then they're kind of responsible for managing that and promoting it, and then when they get full, then they're responsible for getting the collections done as well. And we've had some pretty good success with that on engagement. So it wasn't launched that long ago, but we've had 39 sites set up so far, and we're kind of constantly promoting them. But it's a great way to get our employees involved at the same time. And when we did some of the barriers work in the early stages of the strategy, we identified that small businesses really had some issues with how they can responsibly manage their e-waste. They had some barriers around, they didn't have the time or the awareness, or they just didn't know really what to do. And so we ran a trial through some of our Telstra business centres to offer free e-waste recycling for small businesses. So they needed to register, and then they could come down on the day, and they would drop in and bring their e-waste, and we would take it away and recycle it, and do that responsibly and securely, and get rid of all of the data on there, and do it all for free. And that was just a pilot, but we had enough success that we ended up extending it twice as a result. And now we're just going through that kind of period of working out where do we take this next. So it's very much in the pilot stage, but we got a lot of benefit from doing that, and it certainly helped some of our small business customers as well. So then the last initiative that I had was just around that final pillar around reporting and transparency. And so I mentioned some of the targets under the 4 pillars earlier, and it might be a little bit small to read, but they're the ones on the right there. So it's things around increasing mobile phone collection for recycling, engaging in community and making sure they're aware of the avenues to be able to recycle. But one of the main ones is making sure that we're transparent on our e-waste, so that we report that annually, our network collection e-waste, but also kind of starting to look at how we can report on our customer e-waste as well, that we have an impact over. and then tracking, and then we're looking to even set some targets in the future around our network infrastructure and decommissioning of e-waste as well. So where do we go from here? Well, we need to obviously deliver on our electronics reuse and recycling strategy targets, but it's also important to identify that recycling is not the end goal. We need to be looking to move up the waste hierarchy, so looking more at those leasings and extending product lifetime into reuse or avoidance, or how we can deliver services in the most resource efficient way. But not just moving up the waste hierarchy, but also looking at the whole life cycle and trying to take that circular economy approach. So trying to get involved with the manufacturers of the products in the beginning to optimise them as they go through the system and that kind of thing. So that's what we're looking at for our next strategy when that comes out in a few years' time. So I think that's it from me. So thank you very much.